Yeah, let the big dog hunt. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Kallas Remarks. I'm your host, Joe Staszak, along with my co-host, Steve Kallas, the star of the show. How you doing, my friend?
Great to be with you as always, Joe.
You too, man. I don't remember a bigger day, at least where I'm sitting. I mean, not at this desk. I'm saying in Philadelphia, we have a game seven tonight, and it's a shame that they have to go up against game one of the Flyers, basically the same time they're opening with the Carolina Hurricanes in round two. Got the Phillies, got the Kentucky Derby, and then you have a whole plethora of game sevens in the NBA. And one is because of one R.J. Barrett last night hitting a Tyrese Halliburton-like shot, sort of, that kind of bounced up in the air off the back iron. Kind of Harold Presley in that Georgetown title game in '85. It happened early. Most people don't know that. But anyway, amazing to extend that series, three game sevens in the NBA. That's all I can ask for. How about yourself?
Well, I'm good with it. The first thing I want to point out, though, I think for the first time in the history of the NBA, last night they had three game sixes. And in fact, I think it was Scott Van Pelt who said the NHL had three game sixes and the NBA had three game sixes. First time that's ever happened. Okay. But my complaint is yesterday with three game sixes in the NBA, if you didn't have Amazon Prime, you couldn't watch any of them.
Couldn't find
None
the
of them.
Sixers last week. I was looking at that game five. Where are the Sixers?
And it's just so disgusting. And it's all, I mean, when
That's
does it
it.
stop? When does it stop? And the answer is never.
Well, I mean, I'm down in South Beach. I hear the NCAA tournament's now going to like 72 teams. Come on, 64
Please,
seems was
please,
perfect. They went to
please.
that in '85, and it is the perfect amount of teams in that tournament.
There's only one reason for that.
I know it's all about the money. It's it.
The NBA Cup in the middle of the season.
Oh, the NBA Cup. Here we go.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. Having said that, I'm lucky enough to have Amazon Prime. And I think the biggest surprise was, and the Pistons haven't won now, actually, right? There's now 3-3, and they have a game seven against the Magic.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is the longest streak ever, but for 16 minutes and 48 seconds yesterday, the Magic, who had been up 22 at one point in this game, they missed 23 shots in a row. They missed 23 shots in a row. And that's how the Pistons came back and won. And they won 93-79.
That's you
They
can't
were
make
down
that up.
22. They won by 14. They held an NBA team to 79 points. And they were 4 for 37. The Magic were 4 for 37 in the second half. In a
You
half.
just said it. They held an NBA team to 79 points.
Hard to believe. But give Cunningham credit, 32 points, 10 rebounds. I guess you got to like the Pistons now. The Magic were up 3-1, right? Didn't they go up 3-1?
I believe they did.
They did. So that was one. Give LeBron credit again. Reeves got hurt. I don't know if he's going to miss more. And I don't know if or when Luka's coming back. But the Lakers beat the Rockets. But I think now, aren't they playing OKC now? I think I saw OK. Isn't it Lakers OKC?
Yeah, I believe that. Yes, that's correct.
And OKC is minus 3,000 to win 100, Joe. Can you lend me 3,000? I need the
I
100.
needed to win $100, right?
Now, I will say, in the Rockets' defense, KD missed 5 of the 6 games. You always thought he was going to come back. He was going to come back. He was
Yeah.
going to come back. And then it was 3-2. If he's not coming back, he really couldn't play, you know. And the Rockets were 5 for 28 from three, 28 for 80 from the field, 35%. But it was a LeBron day, 28.7 rebounds, 8 assists. I think every time he plays a game like that at 41, he sets some kind of new record. You got to give him credit. It's amazing what he's doing.
It is amazing.
I mean, I
Whatever
think,
you think of LeBron, I think he's great, but
right.
he's
I,
he's
and I,
not young.
yeah.
Um,
And I think it stops here immediately. I mean, OKC has a good chance to repeat.
they do.
I don't think the Lakers, maybe with Luka, they could have a chance, but I don't think Luka's playing. And again, I don't know the extent. Reeves left the game yesterday in the third quarter, but they didn't need him because
It's going to come. I mean, yes, they can't win without Luca. What is his health situation?
I don't know. He got hurt, came out of the game. I think it was a calf. But I don't have any late report on him. And the other thing I'll say, I just said to you, the Magic only scored 79. The Rockets only scored 78.
Yeah.
It doesn't usually happen in the NBA nowadays, but it did happen. And I guess that'll take us, although they scored 89 points, that'll take us briefly to the night before when the Knicks, in one of the strangest games I've ever seen. And I'm a Knicks fan, but at some point you go, I think it was Towns. I think they were up 50 in Towns. They didn't call a foul when Towns went to the basket. He's complaining at the ref. He's yelling at the ref. And you want to go, come on, man. I
Get the
mean,
game over with, right?
but it was just hard to watch. 40 to and I'm a Knicks fan. 40 to 15 at the quarter, 83-36 at the half. They were up 61 at one point.
What do you
I mean,
say to your team at the half in an elimination game at home?
I've never seen a game like that. No, actually, Knicks were on the road. This was
That's
against
what I
the
mean. That's what I mean. The Hawks.
yeah. I don't know what happened. I don't know if the coach said they quit, but they certainly, it was over at the quarter. And usually you can't say that. Now you don't have many 25-point ahead first quarters, but you could just tell watching it. And then it was, so they were up 25 at the quarter. They were up 47 at the half. I mean,
You're not coming
talk
back
about
from
the
that.
game's over.
It's over.
And I will say again, we've talked about Bridges, who has been criticized soundly. I love Bridges. I think he's a real good player. They gave up too much for him, but 24 and 5 rebounds last night. Towns had one of those. I don't want to call him cheap triple doubles, but he had a triple double, 12 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists.
He's a little
Not
light.
knocking that.
A
Not
little
knocking
light.
that. He's been well. And Anunoby had 29. And I didn't have to even mention Brunson. So they're waiting to see who they play. And, you can talk if you want about, what the 76ers have done. I said, I think they're this far from having we always talk about a trio, but they're this far from having a four. Because I think the Edgemont guy, is that his name? He's real good. I mean, George is playing great. Embiid looks great. He looks young almost these last two games.
26, 32, and 19. In game five, he was a monster in the third and fourth quarter. I was away watching that game. The way they shifted that game. Here's the deal. Boston, you know this. They like chucking threes, but when they don't go in, you don't look as good. And their bench was great up until fourth quarter of game five. Now, I mean, I expect them. I expect the Celtics to win. They're the better team. I don't know how it's going to go. Jason Tatum's a little banged up, and the Sixers seem like they have a little bit of pride in them, and they didn't wilt. Look, they came back in game two after they got killed in game one in Boston and won. Boston, as well as I did, has a tendency to play like this. Even the last 7 years, as good as they've been, they have these games in Boston, which they did in game five. Sixers took care of things in game six. Well, I don't know. Well, I don't know what to expect tonight. What are your thoughts on game seven in Boston?
My thought is Maxi's a star. Embiid's great. George is great. Maxi is the star of the team, in my opinion. And I just looked up before we went on, the coach and Tatum said, no, I'm good. I'm going to play. They interviewed him yesterday and he said he'll be ready, blah, blah, blah. And you don't want to say anything can happen in a game seven, but we'll just have to see, frankly, how it starts out. The Celtics going to be the Celtics. It's what you said. If they're hitting their threes, and they've been up and down on their threes, but it's the old live by the three, die by the three. And we'll have to see what happens. But I think between Maxey, Embiid, and Paul George, I think that's a very, very strong big three. So we'll have to see what happens. I think the 76ers have a chance. If you ask me a percentage, I would say more than a puncher's chance. I'd say they have like a 40% chance. I didn't see the point spread. What'd you say? It's like eight and a half.
And it's still 8.5.
Yeah, that's a lot to me, but I don't think the 76ers are going to quit, put it that way. And I think the Hawks half quit yesterday. They got, Mike Tyson punched in the mouth type of thing, but then they got punched in the mouth of both halves. The whole first half, they got punched in the mouth.
They just, yeah,
And
they
and
wilted.
and
No
now
pun.
the Hawks are very young. They got two young stars, and they had a really good season. This is a hard. Johnny said to me, he texted me, have you ever seen anything like it? And I said, the only thing that comes to my mind is Jaguars 62, Dan Marino 7 in Dan Marino's final game.
Jimmy
And that's
Johnson,
the
I
only
think, is
thing I can
listening to
think
game
of.
too. Yeah.
I can't think of a basketball game where teams were up by 60. I
At
Maybe,
home, that's the thing. Imagine paying that to see that. Oh, hey, we're gonna have big game six. Come up big. We send it to game seven, and you're down 50 before you get your second pretzel and beer. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. Can't make
seriously.
that up. Can't make that up. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to this weekend. Flyers start tonight. We'll go a little NHL. We were all hoping here that they
Oh,
wouldn't go up against us.
give me one more if I could on the
Yeah,
NFL, because I was really surprised the Timberwolves were able to beat the Nuggets, and I think the Nuggets are on their way out. How's the coach survive this? The Nuggets, who won under Mike Malone, and then they fired him, what, 2 years later? They just haven't been the Nuggets. And I know I know Malone is now, he's going to coach UNC, right? How strange is that? Mike Malone
it's
and
a
Bill
little weird.
Belichick,
It
Bill
seems weird,
Belichick,
right? Yeah.
UNC.
Him and
Uh,
Belichick, right?
and they interviewed Jokic at length after the game, and Jokic was like, "We have to get better. I have to play better." He always says that he does say the right thing, but they lose in the first round. It's the first time they lost in the first round since 2022, I think. And I think they made a big mistake by firing Mike Malone. Yeah, I'm prejudiced. I played for his father in high school, blah, blah, blah. But the Timberwolves get the Spurs, and DiVincenzo isn't coming back. Well, they don't know about Edwards. I haven't heard if he's going to be ready, but a lot of people are picking the Spurs now to win it all. I thought they needed a year of experience, but certainly with a healthy Wemby, they can win it all. And I'll say right now, I think whoever wins the West is going to win the championship. I hope I'm wrong and the Knicks can get there, but I don't even know about the Knicks against the Celtics. I don't know. The Knicks against the 76ers, if they're good enough to beat the Celtics, I don't know. I mean, the Knicks will be favored, I guess, against the 76ers, right?
Right.
But they won't be favored against the Celtics, I don't think. But we'll see what happens, because the Knicks didn't go to a game seven, and the 76ers and the Celtics have to go to a game seven. That counts for something in terms of health and, stamina, etc. But, exciting stuff. We'll see what happens. I was shocked, though. The Timberwolves beat the Nuggets twice without DiVincenzo, without Edwards. That's incredible.
Right? That's pretty amazing. DiVincenzo out for the year with an Achilles tear. Um, all right, so let's talk a little NHL. The Lightning stayed alive, sending that series to a game seven, beating the Canadiens in overtime. Flyers start with the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. Rod Brindamore, former Flyer, very popular in this town. Marek Tocchet, former Flyer, very popular in this town, going up against each other. Carolina, very good this year. Flyers probably had no business winning Game Six against the Penguins. Dan Vladar had 42 saves, and they win on a shot from the point by Cam York. But they advanced, and here we are. 4 games this year. Flyers and Carolina Hurricanes, I think, all went to overtime. So at least I don't take a ton of regulars out of regular season, but they've been pretty evenly matched. Flyers had to beat Carolina coming from two down to actually get into the playoffs. Second to
Incredible.
last game of the season. Your thoughts on this
Incredible.
matchup?
Yeah, well, I like Carolina to make it out. I think it's the Avalanche and Carolina in the finals myself. I like Carolina. I like the Avalanche to win it all. But gotta give the Flyers credit. It was incredible to make the playoffs, and this was a pretty big win. Crosby had 5 shots on goal in that last game, but couldn't score. And there've been a bunch of 1-0 games in these playoffs. Not something you're used to seeing. I will go briefly to Tampa Bay against the Canadiens. I don't know if you watched any of that game, but Tampa Bay won in overtime. But I think they should have won in overtime, because it was 0-0. And with 13 minutes to go in the third period, Braden Point, uh, he got Mike Matheson hit him in the face with a high stick that drew blood. I mean, it was obvious, and there was no call. And he had to come to the sideline. And I guess you can in the NHL look for a foul or a penalty or anything, but he was bleeding like crazy. The refs came over, and the coach was saying, "Look at his face, look at his face," and he was bleeding. So that would have been what? Probably a double minor for a
At
high
least a
stick,
double minor.
and they got nothing. So when they won in overtime, 1-0, Vasilevsky with a shutout. I thought it was the right thing. Gonsalves scored the game-winning goal in overtime, but it was one of those. If the Canadians won, you would have said, "Boy, that was wrong," because these guys, they showed the replay, and somehow when the refs were over there, they showed it to them, or I don't know if they pointed it was up on the screen. And again, Tampa Bay was visiting, so nobody's cheering for that. But I give them a lot of credit to win that game 1-0. The other team, I'll give one team credit and one team not credit. The Buffalo Sabres, they're young, but they're good. They're
They're very
good.
good.
They beat the Bruins 4-1, and I think they got a pretty good team. I think they got a shot to advance. And my final, I love the guy, but how many years have we said McDavid has lost in Edmonton? And I give him credit because the Ducks beat him 5-2 to knock out the Oilers. And after the game, McDavid stands there and he said, "Look, we weren't just like this. We were an average team all year. So I'm not sure how much you could expect for us to do in the playoffs." And that says to me, they better get some players in with McDavid now, or McDavid's going to be looking to leave. I don't know what, maybe he's an Edmonton guy. The only time Edmonton was when they had Gretzky and Messier,
Yeah,
being realistic. But
no, that's
McDavid,
true.
in my opinion, I would put him up there. He could certainly play with Gretzky and Messier. He's not Gretzky. He's not Messier, but he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a
Sure.
great player. I feel bad for the guy, and I give him credit all the time. He stands up after a loss, and he tells it like it is, and that's like it is. He said we were an average team. So you can't. I guess if you're an Edmonton fan, you can't be surprised that they lost. But that immediately goes to me to the top, not to the coach necessarily, but to the top. You need some stars.
You
You
got to
need
put some
a
guys. I
couple.
mean, they have two stars in Drysdale and him, but
Right.
they need more.
But they've had him for years, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. But I feel bad for him. I love the way he handles it, but I feel bad that he has to handle it that way.
And back in those days, I mean, they did have Paul Coffey and they had Kevin Lowe and they had Grant Fuhr. I mean, they had some stalwart guys back on defense too. Um,
100%.
other
100%.
than the offensive stars, and they had stars, so they do need to build around those guys. It's a shame because you watch him take early exits every year. I know last year, was it 2 years ago, made it to Game 7 against the Panthers, coming from 3 games down, but just always seeming to come up a little short. It's a shame because I'd like to see him. And I know the NHL would like to see him. And showcase him deep into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but we'll keep an eye on that. So, yeah, I'm not sure who's coming out. I mean, I think Colorado's very strong. They took care of the Kings and Anze Kopitar after 20 years. That was a nice little goodbye. He's been playing there almost since like Marcel Dion has been playing. Maybe they overlapped. I don't know, but it seems like forever. So he's gone. The Kings are what they are, but Colorado's good. And they're coming off. They
They're
won a
real good.
couple years ago, so that core is kind of together.
Yeah.
And then of course, as we talked about all the four majors. You want to talk a little bit of baseball before I go to the Derby?
Yeah, you can give me your opinion of Rob Thompson. I know you didn't like him, and now he's gone.
I I thought he made some epic blunders in the postseason to me that were uh, no, inexcusable. I know. I look. I kind of joke because it's way in the past. But Zach Wheeler in the World Series in Game 6, removing any consideration, he was dealing too. And next guy comes in and gives up a 900-foot home run. They lose that series. They might not have won anyway, but he's done some things in the postseason that just make you go, "What are you doing? Are you reading a book? Are you reading a manual like the analytics manual? There's got to be some feel to the game."
I think that was it. I think that's exactly what it
You
was.
know what I mean? And the team never seemed to. When you think of the Phillies and watch what they've been doing since they started this new playoff era run, same kind of stuff in they're bad at bats, not fundamentally sound at the plate. They don't take professional at bats often, and we're talking about the major guys. And I know Mattingly he's Donnie Baseball, hasn't won a ring, came very close last year. But he's talking about coming back to fundamentals. I mean, at some point, if your team's doing the same thing that's not allowing them to advance and their window's closing, let's face it, even Jimmy Rollins said, they look like they're getting old like we did. when we had Chase and Ryan Howard, and they were great, and then they got old, and then we didn't make the playoffs for 10 years. So we'll see.
Let
They,
me,
they won.
let
They've
me,
won 3 games without Mattingly, and
let
like
me
you
ask you
think,
this though. Let me ask you this. You know
yeah,
the backstory that they offered Alex Cora the job and he turned it down?
yes, I did hear that. Well,
Now, I
he's
don't feel,
Dombrowski. Those him and Dombrowski are boys.
yeah, I don't feel bad about Alex Cora though, because
I
he
know he was an
cheated with
assistant.
Houston, he cheated with the Red Sox, and it just, again, it's all disappeared. AJ Hinch, I wasn't sure what was going on. He broke the TV twice in the dugout. I mean, it still goes back. That's 2017. To me, it's very fresh in my mind, not because the Yankees said they could have won. They could have won, but not because of that, because how cheaters, this is as bad or worse in my mind as the 1919 Black Sox, because everybody knew they were cheating. Anybody who says they didn't know and were in the dugout is full of crap because they had the TV up to cheat. And again, Hinch's defense was he broke the TV twice. Well, then you definitely knew what they were doing. So I don't want to go there, but Alex Cora, who I think is an excellent manager, don't get me wrong. I know that the guys, some guys on TV, I forget what show it was, were bemoaning the fact, how could you fire Alex Cora? But they're pretty bad, and the Phillies are pretty bad. The survivor is the Mets, and the Mets are worse than the Phillies,
I
I think.
know.
And I don't know what the Mets are doing. They rely too much on analytics. The billionaire owner who's spending, a gazillion dollars listens to that guy. I forget his name, who's the GM there. And he was terrible last year. They didn't make the playoffs. He's terrible this year. Kind of hard to make the playoffs. They're 11-21. So I don't know if they're going to make, they have the stats now, and people who were like, got off to a bad start, it's like a 20% chance to make it. But the one thing I wanted to point out, which is so weird, everybody knows how good Paul Skeens is. And before this year, his record was, well, I shouldn't say before this year. His record against the Cardinals before this past Thursday, 2 nights ago, he's 0-4 against the Cardinals with a 2.39 ERA. Against the rest of baseball, he's 25-10 with a 1.96 ERA. They're playing the Cardinals. First guy up hits a home run. Third pitch hits a home run. The fourth guy up hits a home run, and they lose. And Skeens is now 0-5 against the Cardinals. I know sometimes you think a team has a pitcher as, they know what to do with them. But this is freakish because this guy's unbelievable.
He's unbelievable.
Now he's 0-5 against the Cardinals, 25-11 against 25-10 against the rest of the world. And his ERA went a lot higher than 2.39, I can tell you that. He gave up 4 earned runs in 5 innings. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Is it
That's
up
the thing
here?
against the Cardinals. Maybe it's in his head. That's weird.
Maybe it is in his head, but we'll see what happens there. But again, I don't see how he's long for the Pirates. They gave the one guy, the new guy, like a 9-year contract. But he's a position player, and they didn't give Skeens, and they asked Skeens, and Skeens said with a straight face, well, I guess he's going to be the face of the franchise. Right then and there, I think he said, I want out of here.
Right? If that's the way it's going to go.
I don't know if he's approached them, but he wants out of there. And it's hard to give a pitcher a 9-year contract more than a position player, because a position player in his early 20s is going to be 30 after 9 years.
Yeah.
But a pitcher, there's so many injuries still to this day, so many people missing so much time. I guess they don't want to do it with Skeens, but I don't know if he wants to stay there. I mean, now if you got him, to tell you the truth, I don't think he has any desire to change there. He's one of the 3 or 4 best pitchers in baseball the last
Yeah.
couple. So we'll see what happens with that, but kind of disappointing. I think he should be treated better. And for whatever reason, I'm not a gambling man, especially in baseball, but next time he pitches against the Cardinals.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, we shall see. Speaking of gambling, I know a lot of money gets exchanged on this day because it's a Kentucky Derby. Renegade is on the rail, four to
Yep.
one this morning. His odds. You're a horse guy. Your thoughts on you have Commandment at 6, and of course you have Mike Smith riding So Happy at 59 years old at 15 to 1 in the A spot.
Yeah, Mike Smith, I give him credit for being able to go out there and do it, but 59 years old. That's incredible. It's incredible that he's even out there to me. But Renegade is interesting because he has post one. This is 20 horses. I think with scratches now it might be down to 18, but still nobody races against these many horses except in this race. But in any event, I think Renegade's going to have trouble. They've now tried to fix it. Everybody for 100 years, no exaggeration, would say if you have the one post, you're in trouble. But now they've tried to move the gate over a little to give him more room. Renegade, I agree, is the best horse in the race, but I wouldn't pick the favorite anyway, as you know. I kind of like Commandment. I watched his race in the Florida Derby. There are only, I think, 6 or 7 horses in that race, but he came from last to win by a nose. Horse he beat by a nose just got scratched out of the Derby. He's trained by Brad Cox. Brad Cox has won the Derby, but it was by disqualification a few years ago. And the only time I think the winner has been disqualified in the Derby ever. But he's a Louisville guy. His horses won 4 in a row, including the Florida Derby, which is a grade 1. I'm going to kind of go with him. He's 6-7 to 1. He's not going to be the favorite, I don't think. But Renegade is the best horse in the race. I go with that. So Happy has a chance, but he's more of a long shot, as you just said. And Brad Cox also had Further Ado in the race, who has John Velasquez riding him. So I think Cox, they don't go in as an entry in the Derby. You could bet for one or the other. But I like Commandment, and I like Further Ado as well. So we'll see what happens. But it's always, I hate to say it this way, but if nobody wins the Derby and the Preakness, it's not a big deal. Whoever wins the Derby.
Right.
And
Does
now
anyone watch the Belmont if that happens?
they watch the Belmont, but it's like, I don't know how to explain it because it is in New York, it's out in Queens, New York. But nowadays, and I think for the last 15 or 20 years, I think it just isn't. That's what we want a Triple Crown winner. We want a Triple Crown winner. And then I think Justify won the Triple Crown. A couple of horses have won the Triple Crown. But now it's become like, you don't have a chance to be the champion. You don't have a chance to win 3 in a row. So if the same horse who wins the Derby doesn't win the Preakness, and I've said for 20 years now, I used to write columns all the time about this stuff. And I said, look, there's no way you should race 3 times in 7 weeks nowadays. These horses aren't trained to race like thoroughbreds were trained 50 years ago and 100 years ago. And I always thought, and I've suggested this a million times, and it makes great sense to me, not that I have any juice. First Saturday in Kentucky, first Saturday in May, Derby. First Saturday in June, Preakness. First Saturday in July, Belmont. First Saturday in August, I think it's the Travers up in Belmont, and they call it the 4th leg of the Triple Crown. But you could do the first Saturday in every month for 4 months, and you'd have something that flows. Here you have something that goes for 7 weeks. And if nobody wins the Derby and the Preakness, that's it after 3 weeks.
Right.
So I just don't know. And it would be much better for the horses. We hear every year about horses dropping dead or whatever. And I just feel it's a big mistake to still have that. In fact, I didn't think, frankly, there'd be another Triple Crown winner, but I was wrong, and that has happened. But you're racing horses like it's 1950, literally, in my opinion. And I'm surprised. There have been people who have said they can't really race them like this. But I think it's a big mistake. It would be so much better for horse racing if you could go May, June, July, August. And then later on, you're going to have the Breeders' Cup, which is, it's the Super Bowl for every age group.
Right.
I think it's disappointing. I don't think it quite gets what it used to get. You'll get a gazillion people there for one day, maybe yesterday too, because they have the Philly version of the Kentucky Derby the Friday before. And I find it disappointing. And plus, you want to stretch out what you are, because other than these 3 races, there's not a whole lot more. The Breeders' Cup, yes, that's 2 days.
It's got to be about the money. I mean, think about it, because sweeps ends in May. Like in the summer, the reason the TV doesn't have their sweeps and everything is because people are away and they don't watch. It's the only reason I can think, because your ideas make sense. And I don't know why people wouldn't watch these races once a month in the summer, but that's all I can think of is, get it in May while people are still around, school's still in, and people aren't. I don't know. It's the only thing I can think of, and when in doubt, follow the money.
Yeah. It would
Would
be,
you?
I think it would be a much bigger moneymaker if they did again, first Saturday every month for 4 months. It would be the one thing you build up to.
Right. I would agree with you totally. Makes a
And
lot
then
more sense.
if anybody ever won the Derby and Preakness, then think of the buildup for the next month,
Right.
the buildup for the Belmont.
Totally.
But I guess the reason is always because that's how we've always done it. Which
Yeah.
to me
Well,
is anywhere that's whatever you tell me that's in. We do it this way. That's stupid.
it's stupid. Figure out a better way. And when they do, and when they realize there's more revenue, they'll figure it out
And
a
you should
better.
think about the horses. This is, in my opinion, it's unfair nowadays. Horses are not trained to go, 3 times in 7 weeks. Nowadays, the top horses, they maybe race 6, 7 times a year. Now, I love harness racing even more, but those horses are trained to go a lot more than the thoroughbreds are.
Sure. No. Well,
It is
should
what
be
it is.
interesting.
Yep.
Should be interesting, brother. It's still fun to watch. I know a lot of people don't even know, couldn't name a horse, but they watch those 2 minutes because it is a very exciting. They say it's the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. It's pretty exciting. I
Yep.
still love it. Good stuff, brother. You can catch Steve weekly, daily on his Facebook forum page. Speaking of sports with Steve Kallas, his podcast on YouTube and all the audio outlets. You can follow me on Instagram at JoeStasak4799 or on Twitter X at JoeStasak975. Great stuff, my man. Big day. Enjoy it. And we'll talk to you. I'll talk to you this weekend. But folks, we appreciate you watching and we'll see you next week. See you, brother.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
You too, bud. Talk to you next week.